Okay, that's fine. It's recorded.
All right. We're just started the recording and we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to everyone who's here with us live, or those who might be later watching this recording. Welcome. We're so glad that you could join us. My name is Grace. I'm one of the community dietitians here at Food and Friends. And we'll be introducing ourselves, and then Hope Connections for Cancer Support, which is the other organization with us on this webinar today. We're excited to be working together. And then we'll get into some information. After those introductions, we'll get into some information about cancer, nutrition, and then we will have a mindfulness exercise with Larry from Hope Connections. So to introduce myself, my name is Grace. I'm a community dietitian here at Food and Friends, and I'm also a certified specialist in oncology nutrition. And for many of you on this webinar may be clients of Food and Friends, some may be clients of Hope Connections, or you may have found about this webinar through another way. So we just wanted to give a quick introduction to both of the organizations. Food and Friends is an organization in DC that serves DC, parts of Maryland and Virginia, providing home delivered, medically tailored meals and nutrition counseling, and a source of community to people in the area with various life challenging illnesses, including HIV and AIDS, cancer, diabetes, and other illnesses. So that's our mission, and there's a lot of information available on our website at foodandfriends.org. And then Stephanie, would you like to introduce Hope Connections and where people can find out more about you?
Yes, thanks so much, Grace, for having us. Hope Connections is a nonprofit organization that provides support to people who've been affected by a cancer diagnosis and their loved ones. We provide support groups. We have cancer-specific support groups, general cancer support groups, caregiver support groups, mind-body classes, and educational programs. All of our services are professionally facilitated and offered free of cost. We are physically in Bethesda in Landover, Maryland, but now we are virtual through Zoom, so people can join us from anywhere. And if you or a loved one are going through a cancer diagnosis, we hope that you will reach out to us. Grace, I think you do have our information listed, but our website, which is the best way to reach out to us, is Hope Connections. There's an S after Connections, for cancer.org. So Hope Connections, FOR cancer.org. And I can also put that in the chat. And thanks so much again for having us. And I'm excited to be here.
Grace, you are muted.
Thank you so much. I was just saying we are, just a couple other things I wanted to note. We're in a webinar format, so those of us who are panelists, you can see us and hear us, unless we're on mute, of course. Those of you who are attendees, we can't see or hear you, so just sit back and relax and listen, enjoy. And also we will email a link to the recording of the webinar and a copy of all the slides from the webinar to you. So don't feel the need to take notes or anything. Just again, listen. And but we do encourage participating, entering any questions or comments you might have in the chat box or the Q&A section. And then another one of our community dietitians, Agata, is here, and she's kind of behind the scenes, will be helping respond to the chats and the questions and answers. So that's a bit about all of us here. So yeah, we'll have a portion for Q&A specifically, but feel free to ask those at any time as they come to you during the presentation. So I'm going to transition to showing my screen so you can see some slides as we have our cancer nutrition portion of the webinar today. Okay, can everyone see the slides? Beautiful. So cancer nutrition is a really broad topic, but what we're going to be focusing on, so a few things we're going to focus on today are the role of nutrition during and after cancer, frequently asked questions about nutrition and cancer, managing nutrition-related symptoms and side effects of cancer and cancer treatment, as well as some information for cancer prevention and survivorship. So let's dive in. So cancer is a very broad, complex group of diseases. There's many different types of cancer affecting different parts of the body, and different ways of treating cancer that also affect the body in many different ways. So nutrition and cancer, it can be somewhat individualized. What we'll share today is general information. Your individual needs might be different, but hopefully you'll get something that you can take away from this wherever you're coming from. And some common themes about nutrition and cancer is nutrition. Eating well helps to fuel your healthy cells during cancer. And what do I mean by eating well? I mean having balanced meals and snacks that include different food groups, and having a variety of foods from those different food groups. And one of the most important things is eating enough overall, getting enough calories, enough protein, enough fluids and hydration. All of that helps your body have the nutrients, have the building blocks that it needs to fuel your healthy cells so that you can stay strong, maintain your energy as much as possible, and it can even help you to tolerate treatment. Sometimes if people are having difficult time staying nourished, it can cause delays in cancer treatment or cause missing treatment, which can be really challenging. And so nutrition is one way that you can care for yourself during and after cancer treatment, to help support how you feel overall and help support your outcomes of your treatment. And there is a lot of information out there about nutrition and cancer, and there are some really frequently asked questions. So I wanted to touch on a few of those. Some of the most frequently asked questions that we'll go into are about sugar and cancer, nutrition and blood cell counts, as well as supplements and cancer. Now, this is definitely one of the most commonly asked, if not the most commonly asked question that I hear as a dietitian talking with people about nutrition and cancer. It seems just about everyone has heard some variation of the phrase, sugar feeds cancer, or sugar causes cancer. You need to completely eliminate sugar with cancer. And this is something that I've seen cause a lot of stress, a lot of worries, understandably so, for people going through cancer. And so the question may sound simple: does sugar feed cancer? But really, the answer to that question is not so simple. It is true that cancer cells use glucose, which is a form of sugar, for energy. But it's also true that all of our healthy cells, our brain, all of our organs, and everything our body does to function also uses glucose as energy. That's, for example, why we have blood glucose and why it's important to have a healthy level of glucose in our blood. We wouldn't want to have none. And there's really no known way at this time through diet to stop that sugar from feeding cancer cells without stopping that sugar from nourishing the healthy cells. And that sugar, that glucose, it doesn't just come from added sugars in things that we eat. Our body is pretty crafty and can break down just about any food that we eat Even the most healthy, nourishing of foods can break it down into glucose, because that is our body's energy source that it needs. So even if someone's, not eating any added sugar at all, their body's still going to be producing glucose from other foods that they eat. And that's a good thing. We wouldn't want to not have that, because that can lead to complications like breaking down muscle, and loss of muscle mass and strength. We need to have a healthy level of glucose. And so all this to say, the most important thing to keep in mind is balance, focusing on eating more nourishing foods as you're able to. And some of those nourishing foods are things we'll talk about towards the end when we talk about like recommendations for cancer survivorship. And at the same time, it's okay to enjoy an occasional sweet treat or slice of birthday cake, a scoop of ice cream with your loved ones or your family. Those are all things that can be enjoyed as part of an overall healthy lifestyle. And I don't want anyone to feel guilty or worried about including those very normal things as part of your life, along with other nourishing foods. Another really complicated or really common question is related to nutrition and blood cell counts. So changes in blood cell counts can happen with certain types of cancer and treatment, especially chemotherapy and certain kinds of radiation can cause low white blood cells, or as in particular, low neutrophils or neutropenia, which is a certain type of white blood cell involved in the immune system. And these can be lowered by cancer treatment. And it's another common question, are there certain foods that can boost these blood cells? Does nutrition play a role? One nutrition related thing that's really important to keep in mind if you're affected by these low blood cell counts is food safety and good hygiene. Because these low cell counts, they can put you at an increased risk for infections. So you want to make sure you're really washing your hands well when preparing and eating foods, rinsing fruits and vegetables well with water, cooking meats and poultry and other foods, cooking them well, and not letting foods sit out at room temperature for too long. All of those are good food safety practices to help prevent infection. So that's one of the most important things to keep in mind with these blood cell counts. And then to answer the other piece of this question, there isn't any one particular food that that boosts the blood cells, but this is another coming back to the theme of eating enough overall, and in particular, eating enough protein, eating good protein sources with most of your meals and snacks, that can really help provide important building blocks for those blood cells. And when we think of protein, we kind of most often think of meat, fish, poultry. Those are all really great protein sources. And then some other foods that are good sources of protein are eggs, dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt, and then other foods like beans, nuts, seeds, even whole grains have some protein. So having a food that's a good source of protein at most of your meals and snacks is a good idea for most people, especially going through cancer treatment or affected by these blood cell counts. One more frequently asked question about nutrition and cancer is about dietary supplements. Should I be taking dietary supplements either to prevent cancer or during cancer treatment? And I think this question comes from a place of wanting to do everything that you can do to support yourself, to nourish yourself, to care for yourself. And by supplements, I mean this can include vitamins, minerals, herbs, botanicals, other types of supplements. Some things that are pretty common, like vitamin D, for example. Some things that are more obscure. There's many different supplements available out there. And the most important thing to know with supplements, especially when going through cancer treatment, is make sure that your doctor is aware of any supplements that you're taking or that you're considering taking. Even if they're things that are common or seem like they must be harmless. Some supplements can interfere with certain types of cancer treatment. So it's really important that your doctor is aware of any type of supplements that you're taking. And then it's also good to be aware that some types of supplements, they haven't been studied and researched well. They may not be proven to be safe or effective. And often supplements can be very expensive. So if someone is looking to improve their nutrition through taking supplements, it's often a much better investment of money and energy to focus on getting different healthy foods to get the nutrients. Supplements, especially certain vitamins that are very important, can definitely play a role in supporting your health and correcting any like known deficiencies. And of course, if your doctor is recommending a particular supplement, that's for a good purpose. But coming back to the theme, it should always be discussed with your doctor and or other members of your healthcare team who can help you have the best information. So those have been our frequently asked questions. Pivoting a bit to nutrition-related symptoms and side effects of cancer and cancer treatment, there are many different potential symptoms and side effects that can affect your appetite, affect your eating. This is not an all-inclusive list, but these are definitely some of the most common that are frequently experienced. So I wanted to touch on some recommendations to help with these symptoms: nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, and constipation. When it comes to nausea and vomiting, one of the most important things to keep in mind is taking medications that may be prescribed to you as directed, and communicating with your healthcare team. Letting them know how you're feeling, what types of medications you're taking, and how those may or may not be working for you. If you have a medication for nausea and you don't feel like it's working for you, let them know there may be other options that would help you more. And those can really be a good tool to have in your toolbox to help you to feel as well as possible, and then help you to be able to eat as well as possible if you're able to manage your nausea. So along with medications being a tool to have in your toolbox, there's other nutrition recommendations that can help go hand in hand with those. Small, frequent meals, eating something small every few hours throughout the day rather than just eating a few big meals per day, that can really help. That way your stomach is never too full or too empty, and it can help your stomach and digestive system just feel a little bit more stable, a little bit more comfortable throughout the day. Avoiding foods that have strong odors or that are very greasy or spicy, and focusing on foods that are bland and easy to digest. And a lot of this can vary from person to person. You may, already kind of have an intuitive sense of what foods you can tolerate okay if you're feeling nauseous or experiencing some vomiting. And in those times, it's really good to, kind of listen to your body and what you know about yourself, and focus on those foods that appeal to you and that you feel that you can tolerate well. But some examples of some foods to try, especially in times when you're really experiencing that nausea and vomiting, is toast, crackers, soft fruits, oatmeal or other hot cereals, broths, popsicles, and those are some things to try for these kind of small, frequent meals. Having a few bites of one of those things every couple of hours can really help you stay nourished a bit throughout the day, especially on the days you might not be feeling well. Another common symptom that can be from cancer and from treatment is diarrhea. And It's really important, again, with this one, to talk and communicate with your doctor and your healthcare team. They may recommend medications that can help, or they may want to do some tests to help determine the cause of the diarrhea. And another thing to keep in mind, often diarrhea can cause people to not want to eat because they don't want to trigger that diarrhea, which is very understandable, but it's really important as much as possible to still try to eat enough. Your body really needs that nourishment, and to stay hydrated as well. Beverages and fluids can help you stay hydrated if you're having diarrhea, and things like sports drinks, smoothies, can be helpful because they have a bit of nutrition and a bit of um, fluid to kind of help you maintain your nutrition and your hydration. Especially if you're having diarrhea, you can be losing electrolytes like sodium and potassium, kind of similar to when you're working up a sweat exercising. Those same electrolytes that we find in like sports drinks, those are also lost when you have like a lot of diarrhea. So those are important to keep replenished. And some foods that are kind of easy to digest can soothe the digestive system a little bit to try are things like rice, bananas, applesauce, eggs, a lot of kind of plain turkey or chicken, mashed potatoes. Those can all be good to try. And it can even sometimes be helpful to keep a little bit of a journal of foods you're eating and your symptoms, to maybe identify foods that are possibly triggering to you if this is something that you're struggling with. That idea of a food journal, it's not always helpful or feasible for everyone, but for some people it can be really helpful. So that could be something to try. Constipation, again, communicate with your team, and there may be medications as needed, especially if you're very severely constipated, or if the constipation is a result of medications, like certain painkillers and other medications can really cause significant constipation. And if that's the case, often really what is needed is medications to help with the constipation and keep things moving and prevent it from becoming more of a severe issue. But once things are moving a little bit, there's a lot of things with nutrition and lifestyle that can help with preventing constipation or prevent it from coming back and help you stay regular, along with medications as needed. So one of the things that we most often think of with constipation is fiber, and adequate fiber intake is really important for helping stay regular. Fiber is found in a lot of types of foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds. Those are some of the best food sources of fiber. And if you don't currently eat a lot of fiber and you're looking to increase your fiber intake, it's best to increase that slowly, kind of adding in foods very gradually and giving your system time to adjust. And then when you're increasing your fiber intake or eating a lot of fiber, it's very important to stay well hydrated too. And though the fiber and the hydration kind of go hand in hand to help bulk stools and keep things moving through your digestive system. And that can be an adjustment, but those are things that can really help you feel better over time if constipation is an issue for you. Exercise and physical activity, staying active, that can be more or less challenging depending on how you're feeling, your physical abilities, but whatever that might look like for you, staying active a little bit can really help to stimulate the digestion too. There's also fiber supplements such as like Metamucil or Benefiber, psyllium fiber, and those can be very helpful too with constipation. But as I said about other supplements, make sure to talk to your doctor about whether those might be a good option for you to incorporate. And some other general kinds of foods to try are any high fiber foods. prunes and prune juice can be particularly helpful in moving things along, and having like a warm beverage like tea, warm water. Some people coffee helps, especially in the morning. That can help to kind of get things going in the morning, help you with that regularity, and kind of having consistent eating patterns throughout the day and from day to day can help a bit with that sense of regularity. And then moving forward, we have some information about nutrition for cancer survivors. We have, and these are also recommendations for prevention of cancer, or reducing risk of cancer. This information is derived from the American Institute for Cancer Research. They are a great resource for nutrition information, recipes, and other research-based information related to cancer. And these are based on their recommendations for reducing risk of cancer. And then they also recommend that cancer survivors follow these guidelines as possible. People may have different needs, or different abilities to follow this type of guideline, but incorporating some of these principles in the ways that you're able to is really beneficial. It's not all or nothing. Any positive change will have benefits, especially when repeated over a period of time. So definitely try to pay attention to how different food choices and lifestyle choices kind of make you feel, and know that you're taking care of yourself, both for your current health and your health in the long run. And I think with these guidelines, it's great to focus on what are the nutritious foods that I want to add to my diet. And this is where some of the information that we talked about earlier kind of ties back in. So eating a variety of plant foods. You may have heard the term like plant-based diet, plant-based food, very, very trendy term the past couple of years. And that can be defined in a different way by different people or different groups of people. But what I mean when I kind of talk about eating these plant foods, or what researchers like the American Institute for Cancer Research are looking at, is this dietary pattern that doesn't have to mean going completely vegetarian or vegan or eliminating all animal products, but having plant foods make up a more larger portion of your meals and of your overall diet is found to have benefits. Just having that increase in plant foods, if you don't have them a lot, that increase is beneficial. And by plant foods, we mean like any food that comes from a plant, like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. You might notice that those kind of groups of foods have come up a few times at different topics, because they really have a variety of benefits, give us a variety of different nutrients to support different aspects of our health. And especially when we're talking about vegetables and fruits, you might notice that vegetables and fruits, they come in many different colors of the rainbow, from red to purple, green, and everything in between. And it's pretty amazing. Those different colors often reflect different nutrients that are in those fruits and vegetables, like different kinds of phytochemicals and antioxidants. Those are nutrients found in plant foods that are kind of still a topic of research, but are thought to be very beneficial for reducing risk of cancer, or benefiting people who are cancer survivors, is getting those phytochemicals and antioxidants from foods, getting them regularly, getting different sources of them. So one great way to kind of increase the nutrition of your life might be to look at the fruits and vegetables that you're eating. And if you see that you're kind of having just one or two different colors, trying to incorporate something that's a different color, maybe a bright orange bell pepper, or your favorite dark leafy green, or try a new kind of bean. And we've got some more ideas on another slide for, different little ways to incorporate some of these guidelines. Physical activity is another thing. It's really can be helpful for the recovery after cancer treatment. That can be a challenging time for many cancer survivors, having finished treatment and working on rebuilding your strength, energy, and finding ways to be active. There are many resources available to help cancer patients and cancer survivors with physical activity. Hope Connections mind-body classes is a fabulous example of that. And there's many other resources available. So if you're not sure where to start, you can perhaps try talking with your doctor or with someone else like a social worker or dietitian at your cancer center, if you're interested in working on your physical activity but not sure where to start. And then some things to keep in mind, some dietary factors that are associated with higher risks around cancer and other health risks are alcohol, sugar sweetened drinks, red meats and processed meats. And processed meats is like bacon, hot dogs, the processed lunch meat. And some people may not include these things in their lifestyle at all. Some people may enjoy them in moderation, and they definitely can be included in moderation, but it is beneficial to try to limit them, have them less frequently if you're working on supporting your health after cancer or reducing risk of cancer. And this is what I was referring to about some different ideas. Again, I know there's a lot on this slide. You don't need to read it all right now. And this will be emailed out too, but this is just a graphic from the American Institute for Cancer Research that I really like. It's 30 different ways to try to incorporate the guidelines into your lifestyle. And I like that they're just very positive and about trying new things, like different types of physical activity, trying a new vegetable, and other ways of incorporating these guidelines into your day-to-day life and making new healthy habits. And there's lots of resources available, as I was mentioning. Your cancer center may have a dietitian available. Some do, not all do, but many cancer centers do have a registered dietitian on staff available to talk with patients. Many cancer centers also have a social worker or a nurse navigator, others who can help you with navigating or finding resources, depending on what you're looking for and what would be most helpful to you and your individual needs and situation. There's also many local organizations that are here to support people affected by a cancer diagnosis, including Food and Friends and Hope Connections, and then a few other great online resources. As I mentioned, there's a lot of information out there about nutrition and cancer, and that can be a great thing, but not all of the information out there is reliable. So it's important to kind of know where is the information coming from and get an idea of some good, reliable resources. And these are a few of my favorites. Cancer Dietitian, cancerdietitian.com. That is a website with blog posts, recipes. They have lots of videos and webinars available for, diving into more information, or a lot of information about some of the frequently asked questions we talked about today, and many more topics. Cook for Your Life, or cookforyourlife.org. Is another great website. They have some wonderful information focused on nutrition and cooking during and after cancer. So if you're looking to up your cooking skills or try a new recipe, that's a good one to check out. And then I mentioned earlier, the American Institute for Cancer Research, their website is aicr.org. They have a lot of recipes, nutrition information, different types of like challenges that you can participate in, and a lot of other information and resources and research and resources as well. All right. So we'll have a few minutes now for questions and answers. And then after a few minutes, we're gonna transition to our mindfulness exercise with Larry. And then after that, we'll have more time for questions and answers if there's anything that we don't get to during these few minutes that we have now.
All right, we have a couple questions that came during the presentation, and many of them were actually centered around sugar. So the first one was, does gummy vitamins in general contain a lot of sugar?
That's a great question. Thank you. Well, in general, those are, they may vary by brand. Some may have sugar, some may have like an artificial sweetener that doesn't contain sugar. And typically, those are, it's a pretty small serving, that gummy. It's just, this big or something very small. So just because of the size of it, it's probably not very high in sugar, even if it does have some sugar in it. And with gummy vitamins, sometimes those are a really helpful option for people who have a hard time swallowing pills or swallowing vitamin supplement. So if there's a vitamin that you need to take, and that a gummy is a better option for you than swallowing a vitamin pill, that could be a good option. But so it's good to be aware of the sugar content, but it's probably not a very significant source of sugar.
Does red wine contain a lot of sugar and calories?
Oh, that's another good question. So the sugar and calorie content can vary depending on the type of wine. The reason why it's specifically recommended to avoid alcohol, why that was mentioned, is based on the alcohol itself, and the fact that alcohol consumption itself is associated with cancer risk. And the recommendation is, if you don't drink alcohol, there's no need to start. But if you do, keeping that to at most like 1 drink per day for women or 2 drinks for men is kind of the most common recommendation. But even if it can be less frequent than that, that's better for reducing the risk associated with alcohol. But a lot of people do enjoy the occasional glass of wine or another alcoholic beverage, and that can be enjoyed in moderation. But if it's not something that you don't currently drink, that's not recommended to start drinking.
Okay, we are still staying in a sweet neighborhood, but there is a question about equal sweetener. Should it be limited or just avoid it altogether?
So this is another question where the answer is not so simple. If we're talking about, kind of as we're focused today on cancer risk, the artificial sweeteners that are widely available, those have been found to be safe. They do not increase the risk of cancer. A lot of people may choose to avoid artificial sweeteners for other nutritional reasons. Some artificial sweeteners can kind of trigger diarrhea or other GI distress in some people. That's one reason why some people avoid artificial sweeteners. And sometimes if you're trying to cut down on your overall taste for sweet foods, it may be best to just kind of gradually reduce the intake of like a sweetened beverage. But as far as cancer risk, things like Equal and those other kind of widely available sweeteners, those have not been found to like increase cancer risk or anything concerning from that perspective. I hope that helps. I also see a question about red meat. Does that only refer to steaks? And should cancer patients avoid processed meat totally? So the recommendation, again, kind of coming from the American Institute for Cancer Research, is 18 ounces or less per week of red meat, and that includes any kind, like that includes steak, ground beef, any kind of red meat. And then processed meat, it is recommended to keep that pretty limited. It can be enjoyed on occasion, but it's not recommended that that be kind of one of your primary sources of meat or protein.
Those were all questions.
All right, perfect. Well, we're going to transition to our mindfulness exercise with Larry, and I just wanted to note, nutrition is just one piece of the puzzle of our physical health and our overall wellness. There's many other things that play a role in our wellness, and mindfulness is something that can help us with some of these dimensions of wellness. So now we will transition to that portion, and I will stop sharing my screen and give the floor to you, Larry.
Thank you very much. Thank you for Food and Friends for having me and representing Hope Connections for Cancer Support. I'd like to latch on to your theme of nutrition, because I see mindfulness as feeding the nutrition of the mind. Think of mindfulness as diet. There are a variety of diets, each having its own advantages and disadvantages. There are many ways to approach mindfulness. So I'll introduce you to a few techniques of mindfulness, and then we'll take a few moments and practice before returning back to Grace. So first, I'd like to explain what mindfulness is. It really has three main components. It basically means being in the present moment, doing things with focus, doing them intentionally. And I forget what the third one was that I was going to mention. Yeah, intentional. Oh, and being non-judgmental. Non-judgmental was the third component. Many mindfulness techniques focus around the breath and breathing, because you always are breathing. You always have your breath with you. So one of the things I'd like to point out is one way we relax intuitively is to sigh. Think about a situation where you've had, a very taxing day, very stressful, running around a lot, taking care of errands. You come home, the stress is over, you want to relax, you kick off your shoes, you sit down in your favorite chair, and you go, I'm so glad that day's over. You sigh. Well, we can take a lesson from that and purposely sigh when we want to relax. We can sigh not reflexively, but we can sigh mindfully. So the way to practice that right now would just be to take a deep breath in through your nose, really fill up your abdomen and fill up your chest. Think of your abdomen and your chest as like a bucket, and if you filled it with water, it would fill up from the bottom up. So when we inhale through the nose, we try to visualize filling up the abdomen and then all the way up through our lungs. Then we pause, because when we're tense and when we're rushed, we breathe quickly and shallow. And then we exhale slowly through the mouth. And I like to couple it with a visualization of gradually blowing a feather across the room. We make the exhale gentle. We make it prolonged, about twice as long as the inhalation. So putting it all together without my narration, a relaxation breath or a mindful breath would be It's almost like a silent sigh. And whenever you're feeling stressed during the day, you can mindfully breathe. Take that inhalation through your nose, fill up the lungs, pause for whatever duration feels comfortable. And then exhale through the mouth as if you're blowing your stresses across the room, floating on feathers. You can close your eyes. You can add visualization to your breath, making it even more mindful. And there are variations of how mindful breathing can help you to relax. There's a technique called 4-7-3 breathing. I think that was developed by Dr. Andrew Weil. And he suggests you inhale to the count of 4, you pause for the count of 7, and you exhale to the count of 8, 4-7-8 breathing. It's really like the sigh. You may come across the term box breathing or 4-4-4-4 breathing. Very similar. It's inhaling to the count of 4, pausing to the count of 4, exhaling to the count of 4, and then pausing again to the count of 4. And you determine, how fast you should count, how long you hold your breath. You do what feels comfortable and relaxing. And when you do mindful breathing, or this relaxation breath that I refer to, you're actually stimulating part of your central nervous system known as the parasympathetic nervous system. Most people are familiar with your sympathetic nervous system. That's your adrenaline system, the part that fires you up. That's the accelerator pedal. The parasympathetic nervous system relaxes you. It's the brake pedal of your central nervous system. And just the act of sighing, the act of being mindful when you breathe, activates that parasympathetic nervous system, and your cortisol level or stress hormone levels decrease, your blood oxygen increases, your adrenaline level and your blood pressure decrease, heart rate decreases. So let's just practice right now 3 relaxation breaths. And if you want to close your eyes so you can visualize that exhaling. And let's just do 3 relaxation breaths together. Inhale through the nose. Comfortable pause. Exhale very gently, blowing a feather across the room, blowing a snowflake. Let's do a second mindful breath. Inhale through the nose. Pause and then gently blow that feather or snowflake across the room. And you do a third one on your own. Okay, now being mindful could involve visualizations. You probably have some experience with guided imagery or somebody guiding you through a meditation online or in person. When we engage our vision, even if it's just in our minds, that's relaxing. That's nourishing your mind. So let's just try normal breathing right now. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and just observe your own breath. Just observe it. Sometimes being mindful is, I don't want to say doing nothing, but it's passively observing. So just breathe. Just observe. See what breathing does in the present moment. And realize and accept you can't breathe incorrectly. So we can breathe without judgment. And with your mind, just make some observations. Notice what it feels like every time you inhale. Again, we're not controlling the breath. We're just passively observing the breath. It's like standing in the shower to relax. There's nothing you need to do once you get in the shower. You let the shower do all the work. You just receive it. You receive the cleanliness. You receive the relaxation and the warmth. So just receive the sensation of your inhalation when you breathe. What might you observe about your inhalation? Well, you can put your hand on your belly and observe what happens to your belly every time you breathe in. Or you can put your hand on your chest and sort of discover for the first time, what does your chest do when you inhale? And see if when you breathe, you can even feel the air entering your nostrils. See, we breathe all the time, but we do it mindlessly. What we're practicing now is mindful breathing, being aware of the breath. Feel the movement of the air through your nostrils. Be aware of the temperature of the air through your nostrils. Is it cool? Is it warm? When you breathe, are you aware of any motion in your collarbone, in your neck, in your shoulders? You think of breathing just being in our lungs, but sort of mentally examine your shoulders and your neck. Is there any movement or change in muscle tone when you breathe? And we can do mindful breathing slightly differently. Again, just breathing normal. This time, mentally focus on your exhaling. And see or try, every time you exhale, see if you can visualize releasing something. So breathing at your own comfortable rate. When you exhale, just like we did earlier, blowing a feather across the room, upon your next exhalation, see if you can blow stress across the room. Just watch it exit your body like smoke, dissipate through the room, through the air, and disappear. If you have pain anywhere, see if you can take the pain, put it on the air that you exhale, and visualize it sailing across the room, disappearing like mist. You can take illness, blow it away. Fatigue, blow it away. Worry, exhale it and blow it away. And sometimes to help visualize these things we want to exhale, you can maybe assign them a color. If you think of pain in your body as being a particular color, when you exhale, visualize blowing out a mist, that color, and seeing it leave your body. You can do mindful breathing with the inhalation very similarly. Breathe in what you'd like to take into your body. So upon your next inhalation, maybe breathe in health. Maybe there's a smell you associate with health. Breathe it in. Or a color you associate with strength and being healthful. Breathe it in. You just observe the breath, mindful breathing, and we add visualizations to it. Okay, to expand on the visualization, I invite you to try imagining standing by the side of a lake. And take something from your body that you'd like to get rid of, a pain, a worry, a stress, an illness, and put it on a little model of a sailboat that's in the water by your feet. And now every time you exhale, blow very gently on that sailboat and let it carry whatever you're trying to release further out into the lake. Every time you exhale, watch that sailboat carrying the pain or the worry or the stress get further and further across the lake. And this could be a 30-second activity or a 20-minute activity. But when you're ready, again, as you exhale, watch the sailboat get so far down the lake and around a bend that it disappears out of sight. And as it disappears out of sight, so does some of the stress, the pain, and the worry. So just like nutrition means taking in the right components for the health of your body and trying to avoid the components that are unhealthy, mindfulness is nutrition for your mind, nutrition for your soul. Breathe in components that are healthful and exhale those components that we should avoid. So take one last relaxation breath and then open your eyes. And the last message I'd like to leave with you is that there are so many ways to practice mindfulness. One of my favorites, believe it or not, is washing dishes after a meal, doing it mindfully. How many times have you washed the dishes after a meal thinking, oh, I got to get this done because there's another chore I want to do, or I want to go read my book or watch a TV show. It's washing dishes is something to get over with. I invite you to wash dishes and engage your senses. Mindful dishwashing. So feel the temperature of the water. Really sort of get into it. Smell the dishwashing soap. Feel the texture of the soap in the water. Listen to the sound of the water as it comes out of the faucet. It makes a different sound when the water hits a glass or a piece of silverware or a dish. And when you do it mindfully, when I do it mindfully, 5 minutes of dishwashing can feel like a 20-minute meditation. So I hope you've enjoyed this short presentation. I hope I invite you to practice some on your own. And remember that mindfulness and breathing done mindfully is nutrition for your mind and soul. Okay, thanks for having me today. Grace?
Thank you so much, Larry, for helping us to nourish our mind-body connection today. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
I have one last, and I hope everyone found that as nourishing as I did. I have one last slide to share, saying that we want to hear from you. We have a survey, and I'll put the link to the survey in the chat as well, and it will also be emailed to you. But this is a survey to get your feedback on this webinar today, and we welcome any thoughts that you may want to share. And then we want to hear from you, Food and Friends, as well. Our website is foodandfriends.org. And if you have any questions particular to this webinar, you can contact us at nutrition@foodandfriends.org. Stephanie, do you want to mention the contact information for Hope Connections again?
Hi, yes. Hope Connections, we are available online, and our website is hopeconnectionsforcancer.org, and I put that in the chat. I can also put our phone number in the chat, which is 301-634-7500. And I hope that you will reach out to us for support, information. Larry does a lot of mindfulness classes for us at Hope Connections, as well as our exercise programs and educational workshops. So, and Grace, thank you so much for having us here today. This is so informative and lovely.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much. Hope everyone has enjoyed the presentation today. If there's any last questions or comments, we'll stay on for another minute, but otherwise we'll wrap up. And please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to support you. And thanks so much for joining us today.